What's up, people? I'm Shaggy the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 18 in my reviewing and ranking King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard studio albums, going in order, and I'm now at release number 18, which is why this is part 18. This is Butterfly 3000, was released in June of 2021, and the story behind this album, apparently, is there's a story behind every King Gizzard album, it seems, is during the pandemic, during the lockdown, if you forgot, in 2020, 2021, a lot of the world was locked down because of COVID. Members of the band were sort of exchanging, creating like synth loops and MIDI loops and doing stuff with like synthesizers and stuff like that and trading the loops, and then they would trade the loops and I guess build songs based on those. They were also putting together another album, and they were kind of maybe trying to write songs as sort of connecting pieces in those albums, and then realize like, oh no, this is stuff that needs to be on its own. The title comes from the fact that, hey, to become a butterfly, you got to be wrapped up in a cocoon first, which could apply both to the pandemic. You know, we were all in our own little cocoons. And then also could apply to the fact, I think one of the band members, I think it was Stu McKenzie, sort of the front man, he wasn't having a baby, but his partner was having a baby. And so he was in sort of a cocoon of family during this time. And so the Butterfly 3000 is a reference to the coming out of the cocoon, of whatever cocoon you want it to be. A very synthy album, a synth pop album. At times there are both musical moments and melodic vocal moments that are reminiscent, I think, of MGMT, reminiscent of Kraftwerk, reminiscent of even a little Portugal the Man in their sort of like mid, almost psyche phase, their mid psych phase. They were also doing a little glam rock in there that was beautiful. It's a whole other video. A little Tame Impala vibes when they went fully like sort of keyboard electronic, you know, midway through their sort of career. So we got a lot of touchstones of other sort of psych pop sounds. But what makes it ultimately sound like King Gizzard is you have the percussion, just those awesome fills, that awesome driving percussion, the awesome driving rhythm section. A lot of the vocals are in that. I hit my elbow on the table and the thing stopped. That's crazy. But a lot of the lyrics are in a very staccato, sort of like, you know, that percussive sort of delivery. But then there were other times when it also reminds me very much of MGMT or Tame Impala, with sort of a breathy airiness about the vocals. The album, I think, is intended to be listened to all the way through, like as a straight listen. The songs don't flow as smoothly into each other as they say they do in Non and Gone Infinity. There's also not like sort of a recurrence of a main theme, Non and Gone Infinity, open the door, that runs through it. Like before, as we get to every song, we'll kind of drop down in just a simply almost percussive element before the next song kind of slowly builds. So there aren't any actual real breaks between the songs, but they don't necessarily flow directly into each other. You can kind of tell where the differences are. 10 songs on the album. Yeah, they're all really synth heavy. You got a couple examples where some acoustic guitar comes in and maybe they'll have a little more acoustic energy. But for the most part, it's a very synth driven album. Opens up with Yours, which is like a nice, light, airy, some great drums. You got some acoustic guitar in this open thing, on this thing. Very upbeat, very positive, very warm feeling. Some of the lyrics are a little bit darker, whether they're, again, I think commenting on just 21st century problems, or maybe there's a little introspection in there, and what you're seeing in the introspection is not that good. But then you also get songs like Catching Smoke, the longest song on this album, which, what is the line in it? Like he's got $25 worth of happiness in his pocket, and he's maybe looking for somebody to share it with. So Catching Smoke, probably one of the trippier songs on the album. Yours opens up with a nice, positive, airy atmosphere. Shanghai, maybe a little bit slower, but still a little upbeat, a little bit spacier. This is where we get some MGMT vocals, I think. You definitely get an MGMT vibe. Dreams kind of another one of the trippier songs on the album, and the lyrics are really repetitive in Dream, and it almost feels like you're caught in this like dream loop where you're dreaming the same thing over and over and over again, just because the lyrics are so repetitive. But then every once in a while he'll drop in a line that's completely different, and you're like, oh wait, but the dream's moving forward, but then we go back to this loop. It's a neat sort of hypnotic effect that's created, both with the like the repetitive synth loops and the lyrics just kind of repeating themselves over and over. That goes into Blue Morpho, which almost sounds like you're lost in the dream that was referenced in the previous song. And like a morpho butterfly, you're kind of flying sporadically all over the place, but you're kind of still in the same contained space. It's like a weirder MGMT type song. It starts off kind of really slow and dramatic. Then there's this awesome drop, like in the like about a minute and a half in it, that like ups the song. But then we go back into the spaciness. Yeah, really nice dynamics in this thing. And then Interior People, which closes out the first half of the album. Nice acoustic sort of instrumental start with some really good bass playing in there. Then it kind of emerges and we go into this like somewhat driven, almost Kraftwerkian, krautrockian type groove. Not as heavy as like some of their other stuff in like previous albums, but this is probably Interior People, probably the most straightforward song on here. It sounds, what is it? It's like just over 5 minutes. It sounds maybe like a radio song, or it could be a single. Everything else really seems, while they work as standalone songs, the connection between the others, I think, helps, you know, what it comes after, what it comes before. I think the forest is greater than the trees for this album. Interior People, for some reason, just sounds like a really solid standalone song. And it's got just great momentum that just keeps building and building as the song goes on. Catching Smoke, I think the highlight of the album, 6.5 minutes. It's a slightly Eastern vibe in it, with some of those sort of like synth ideas, almost have this almost like very, you know, meditative Chinese, like Eastern type vibe to it, but not very strong, just hints of it. That drops into another really cool beat. You got some kind of weird vocals in here. Got some Tame Impala vibes in the middle of it. Guy's got $25 worth of happiness in his pocket, wants everybody to enjoy it with him. I think easily the trippiest, most dynamic song on the album, but very well done. 2.02 Killer Year. Tame Impala vibes in this one, the synth Tame Impala. Apparently the waves are really good this year. That's what the Killer Year is, but the waves are so big that we all might drown. So it's almost like, I always see this as in the lens of their previous ones, which were about the environment. Some of their previous albums are very environmental focused, especially Infest the Rat's Nest. Is that what it's called? Yeah, the thrash album. This one almost seems like, hey, one of the benefits of global warming is we get huge waves we can go surf. But these huge waves might also kill us all. So, you know, gotta figure out the pros and cons of that. Black Hot Soup, another acoustic guitar, some nice like sweeping sort of synth sounds. This has a darker energy. This seems to be like a spiraling inward, almost like maybe losing a little bit of like pessimism seeking in. There's something about Black Hot Soup that just kind of doesn't sit right. It's maybe one of the more unsettling, least, it's a great sounding song, but one of the least optimistic, happy sounding songs on the album. Then we get Ya Love, which again continues this sort of darker vibe for a while. You have this really nice, like sort of moody intro with these like thumping, like drum beats that are bringing like this dramatic dark edge. But then that sort of goes into this more of sweeping, happy, uplifting, not necessarily simpler song, but the vibe is one that's just like, yeah, we're getting back to this good feeling type thing. And it just kind of lifts you up. And then we close out with Butterfly 3000, which is just like kind of the same little loop. And like vocals are layered on it, other things are layered on it. It kind of just slowly builds in intensity. And then they throw in a little bit of controlled chaos at the very end before the album ends, before the song ends. Yeah, it's just a great journey. It's almost unlike anything else they've ever done, but at the same time, it sounds like King Gizzard. The drums are there, the vocal aspects are there, the lyrics are there, touching about a lot of different things, though. the net over which the lyrics are like casting is wider. I left out words in that analogy, but I think it's understood. But yeah, an absolutely awesome listen. Really enjoy this album. If you like the heavy guitar stuff, this is not your album, because I don't think there's an electric guitar on here. There's acoustic a couple times if there is electric. It does say there's electric guitar on here, but I think it's muted. It's definitely not the star of this show at all. It's the loops, it's the synths, it's that very mid 2010, 2015 synth kind of psych vibe, but doing it, 5 years later, 6 years later, King Gizzard style, which kind of makes it better. But anyways, where would I rank this among all the others? I have it towards the bottom half, and that says less about this album than it does about the quality of everything else on this list. None of these are bad. You get to the bottom, 17 and 18, Fishing for Fishies, actually, that's a good album. Sketches of Bronze Wiki, that's a fun album. Like, none of these are bad. It's just a matter of how you rank personal favorites. And I would put Butterfly 3000 right in the middle, or towards the middle at number 11, right behind, some of the more weirder microtonal stuff and the thrash album and all that kind of awesomeness. But yeah, that's my ranking. That's my discussion of this album. I can't say it's really a good place to start for a King Gizzard album, because it does not really sound like anything else they do. Everything else they do, at least so far on this list, tends to be more electric and more psych electric and maybe even heavier and all that kind of stuff. But it's a good journey. It's awesome that they're still doing stuff like this. It's awesome that this band can go, like, been playing left field their whole career, and all of a sudden they're in right field and they're pulling it off. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's a good album. But all right, that's all I got on this album. This has been a fun journey. Just got done with 2 microtonal albums, the previous 2 before this, KGLW, and now we're dropping this weird little synth loopy thing, sort of a Kraftwerk of the new millennium, and now we'll see where we go from here. But anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this album. Let me know where you would rank this album, all that kind of stuff. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and go listen to King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Oh, they just announced a new album is coming out in August. So I think there were like 24, 25 that were out when I started this project 18 weeks ago. And now they've just announced another one. So I knew at least one more would come out while I was making this. So anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.